Hi, welcome to the 1 in 20 show. I'm your host, Evan Rogers, and today I am privileged to be joined by three masterminds of theater, Guerrero, Moorhead, and Schmidt. The three of them began to work together in college on their musical Bravo, which went on to receive workshops and readings at the Actors Company, Playground Theater Company, Ball State University, and New Musicals Incorporated. In the fall of 2017, Bravo won NMI's International Search for New Musicals competition. Additionally, Guerrero, Moorhead, and Schmidt participated in NMI Disney Imagineering New Voices project in 2017. The three of them also co-founded Playground Theater Company, where Guerrero and Moorhead serve as co-artists and directors, and Schmidt as musical director. To squeeze them all into one continuous interview, or on the couch for that matter, would be tough. So first, I would like to start out with Mr. Cristian Guerrero. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's great. What role do you play in this trio, this infamous trio that you guys have?
So, with my two writing partners, Andrew and Steven, Moorhead and Schmidt, I am the co-book writer with Andrew, and then I'm also a co-lyricist with Andrew and Steven.
Awesome. That's great. Really cool. And I wanted to kind of start with going back in time a little bit. How old are you now? I want to know how many years back
how old do you think I am? I'm 25.
25. Okay, yeah. I was going to say 23.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. I don't think 20s don't really matter, do they?
I mean, I have many thoughts about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's another episode.
Yeah, that is another episode. But at 17, you and Steven were working on Mad World, which is a show that you guys wrote together. What did you learn from that? What's the story? Kind of what happened? How did that whole thing get started?
Yeah.
And what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Steven and I have grown up together. We've known each other since we were 12 and grew up doing musicals and singing in choir together. And the story goes, we've told this, we tell this left and right, but Steve and I ditched concert choir our senior year one day, which is something we never did, to go to Chipotle. And his mom ended up being there at Chipotle, so we couldn't be at Chipotle, so we left and sat in our cars, and we decided to write a musical.
How cool.
Yeah.
Was it toward the end of senior year?
This is the beginning of senior year. Wow. Yeah, this is the beginning of senior year. Because we were just like, we got to do senior project. We might as well have fun with it. Let's write a musical. This is something we had never done.
Yeah.
And so we wrote what came to be Mad World, which is the story of Lewis Carroll, who wrote Alice in Wonderland.
Yep.
And
That's right. That's
luckily,
awesome.
our theater teacher, Stephen Whalen, was so supportive of the idea and just kind of let us do what we wanted, with it, and just said go and said whatever you want to do. So we ended up writing the show and did it in the fall. It went over really well. He said, do you want to do it again in the spring with rewrites? Yeah, so we did it as the spring show. And we did it, and it just kind of kept going when Steve and I went to college. And so to answer your question, what we learned so much from it. I mean, we weren't taught how to write a musical. We just did it by trial and error, and that whole Mad World process. It's been going on 8 years now.
Wow.
Of being with that show, and through all the opportunities, starting at Valencia, then going, we did a short film in college,
cool.
and then we did readings of it, and then we were at the Festival of New American Musicals, and then we were at the Beverly Hills Playhouse, and then we had, a production at Ball State. Anyway, just point being, through the entire process, we learned how to construct a show, what makes a musical, how to be a writing team, how to put on the musical that you wrote.
Right.
So many things that we learned.
Well, and we were just chatting about how, like, it's cool that, you find your talented friends and or your best friend in this case, and you just go at it with what you got, and just try something. It's kind of cool. That's kind of what we're doing with this too. It's like, well, we're just going to go try it.
Absolutely.
And why not?
Yeah.
And it's so neat to see that did so well for you guys. And obviously it took a while, right? Like, it wasn't immediately picked up or anything. Mad World. I don't remember how fast that kind of all got started.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad that it was pretty gradual. I mean, there was just when I look back on it, like, the benchmark points of when it was getting done came at pretty spaced out points from high school through college, which was nice just because we had time and space in between those opportunities to keep growing and learning. And the show's gone through so many rewrites that
I was gonna say it probably has,
so many rewrites. and having that space. And while we're still developing ourselves as writers and as artists, but especially right out of high school, to have that time was really nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's so cool. I mean, it's cool to hear that it was, you know, a lot of people that come on here are of the same mindset as me, and a lot of people where it doesn't really matter what everybody says you should, you know, do. Not like in a rebellious way, but you can kind of try whatever you'd like to try and make it work. And then obviously it comes down to money, but when you know, money, trying to monetize what you do, but it is cool that there's so many people out here that just go for it and try it and just keep trying, you know, and sounds like you guys are product of that after 8 years or so on this partnership. Yeah. So then you went off to Chapman, and what a wonderful arts community that is, as I've heard.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure you can attest to that.
So many. The one thing, not the one thing, I can say many things about Chapman, but I think my favorite part about the Chapman, you know, Dodge College, the film school, and the theater department is that there's never a lack of projects to be a part of. Like if every single week, if you're bored, then you're holding yourself in your room and you're just not out there, because there was just so many opportunities at every corner in so many different mediums. And that was really exciting for at that time, you know, having written a musical, theater was my background, and then transitioning into a more film based curriculum, and then combining the two. It was just great to be able to jump between things.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And if you want to share about the major, because we were chatting about that even before we started, like I thought it was really unique that you could get a BFA in what was the title?
BFA in screen acting,
which included theater and screen, like you mentioned, and screenwriting. And to me, that's like a versatile education that you want to have. And
absolutely. The whole mindset behind it is that, you know, especially being in LA, you know, that's where we live, that creating your own content is super important. It's a super important skill to have, and to have, like you said, tools to do that. So the BFA in screen acting, what was really great about it for myself and for Andrew was that we did come from theater backgrounds. We love theater. We still love theater, and we love to do theater, but we were also really interested in film and what we could do with that. And we were also interested in writing, for film and for theater. And with the BFA in screen acting, the acting training is with the theater faculty. You know, it's just it's acting training. And then all of our electives, you know, instead of theater history, we took film history. Instead of, we got to take editing, we got to take screenwriting. That was built into our curriculum. So
that's wonderful.
Every year we were just given all these skills, and our teachers were just saying, here's what you need to know, and just go make what you want to make. Put your own stuff out there, and you can be in your own stuff. So that was, for me, when I heard that, I was like, oh, like this is the perfect, there was nowhere else I really would rather have been.
That's
honestly.
wonderful.
Yeah. So when I was auditioning for schools, and I didn't know I was going to do screen acting at the time, but everything happens for a reason. So, and it ended up being the right program for what I wanted to do.
That's wonderful. Somebody said it on here that you can do, I think it was Aaron Chalakian was saying you can do a whole lot of different things. You just can't do them all at once. And I thought that was cool. And it's true. But I mean, it's better, I feel, to get a well-rounded education in a bunch of different things in the arts to see if any of them are lucrative as a career path at any one period of time. You know what I mean?
And I just feel like you gotta, there's so many opportunities. I mean, you just have to, you know, seek them out and surround yourself with a ton of passionate and creative people in every medium, every you know, whatever it is. And if you're able to jump in between doing different, you know, jobs or roles within projects, it's only going to make you better, and it's going to, you know, just, I think it's really fulfilling to be able to do that. Yeah, man,
it's cool. It's just cool to hear. I mean, it's a big thing about, I think, a lot of this show is just hope too, because there's so many up and comers that watch it, and you know, we're just all, I think everybody from a young age is still just trying to step up. But there's something, somebody said it on here, and it was something like, this community seeks to do that. And we kind of chatted about that before, like Santa Clarita in a whole, there's all of these kids from parents who are in the industry or who are in various industries who all want to be like their parents or all want to try hard. And here there's a community to kind of do that. I mean, everybody's getting their start here. I know you guys did with Valencia and everything. I wanted to hear from you about Bravo, because I first heard about you guys through my good friend Camden Espino, as well as Noah Azuna, who I knew both of them, and I kind of knew that they had worked with you on this.
Yeah.
What is this show about? How long is it? Like, I don't really know a whole lot of. I've heard some of the numbers and they're great, but I don't know a whole lot about the story or anything like that. So if you want to share,
yeah, absolutely.
some of that.
Yeah. So Bravo is a new musical. And it takes place in World War II in Italy, and it focuses on a group of children, Jewish children, who are in hiding from
is it fascism?
Yeah, fascism.
Is that your focus?
Yeah. Okay. So cool. We have the fascists and specifically, since the show centers on children, the youth division of that, they're called the Black Shirts.
Okay.
And our protagonist, his name is Renzo, is a black shirt, and he ends up finding these group of children in hiding, and he decides to keep their secret. So it's about that,
Powerful.
struggle, between, him knowing their secret, knowing where they are, and does he turn them in, does he not turn them in, and then focusing on these people that are in hiding and their lives and the relationships that they have within this really tumultuous time in history. Yeah. Wow. So, yeah.
Powerful. It's cool. I like shows that are like that choose to really hit home with the story instead of just throwing a whole bunch of music at a concept. You know what I mean? And that's wow, that's so powerful. And how did that all how did you come up with that? I'm curious. Was it just kind of looking through different topics, or did it just kind of fall in your lap, or
I would say, where we're at now, it's been 4 years with Bravo now. So we're in our 4th year from when we started writing it. And when we started writing it in college, Andrew and I went to school together, and then, Steven and I worked on Mad World. And Andrew and I went to Steven and said, we have an idea for a show. Let's start working on it.
Sure.
And the show was a completely different show 4 years ago. Literally everything was different except for the character names and some of the themes that are now in the show.
Sure.
So we wrote that show, and it was at the time about people who are different, or people who are, the other in society, made to feel like they're not like other people, and they're,
marginalized groups.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so that was that version, and we wrote that, and we just knew that there was something about that idea that we really liked and gravitated towards, but we needed to keep developing. And so as time went on, we took breaks from the show, and we kept coming back, and we were thinking about what we were trying to say. And ultimately we decided, okay, this needs to be a historical piece. So we set it in World War II.
Oh, so that was more recent.
Yeah, that wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, it was more abstract, the first version.
Yeah. It always is,
very
right?
avant-garde.
Yeah.
But
how cool.
Now it's set in a specific place, set in a specific time in history. And as we did our research and researched the time period and these characters that we did make up, but then we were researching children in that time, it was just all coming together really quickly for us. And
so just made sense, right?
Sort of. We feel like this chose us in a way. And then as we started to assemble what the show is now, we were like, we're in. We gotta see this through. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
And that would have been kind of cool because you and Andrew met at Chapman, correct? And then Steven was at Azusa. So I guess you guys were all kind of in Orange, right? You weren't that far.
Yeah, Steven.
You're more towards San Diego, I guess.
He's
Azusa,
like 20. Yeah, he's like, if you go back north, from Orange County, he's like 20, 25 minutes.
Oh, that's
Orange
still
County.
not too bad. Because I was wondering how in the world did the three of you put that together, like during college?
Yeah, no, it was, and that's because even now writing together, we live, Steven lives in Pasadena, Andrew lives in Glendale, I live in Burbank. So they're 15,
thanks for coming
15.
Yeah, sure.
But writing in separate places, and especially in college when we're on two different schedules, is a skill that you have to learn. Everyone has stuff going on, and everyone's working on their own stuff. So to make the time, and especially when you're working together on the same thing and you're on different schedules, we're still learning how to make that work and how to, it's all about communication and a lot of planning. And then
a good trusted relationship, though, it sounds like, which is key, right? To be able to put bury ego, because that's always hard. But to choose to be humble first, right? And use each other to create a vision, right? That came to life with Bravo. It sounds like beautiful music too. By the way, it's awesome. I love the things I heard from it. we'll kind of put that aside a little bit because I'm sure we'll talk about it with Steven and Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you're working on 5 O'Clock Mambo, right?
Yeah.
Or have you? I can't
Yeah.
remember. Was
Yeah.
that present? Or?
Yeah, it was well, I don't know. It feels like forever ago, but it was just a year ago. Yeah, the 5 O'Clock Mambo. 5 O'Clock Mambo was the first full-length play that I wrote.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
so about...
Yeah, and Bravo's a musical.
Bravo's
for
a
people
musical.
who didn't know.
Yeah.
I already said music, but yeah.
Yeah, Bravo's
Cool.
a musical. 5 O'Clock Mambo is
Yeah.
the first full-length play that I wrote, and it's semi-autobiographical. And about a year and a half ago, I was actually with Andrew. We were on a road trip from San Francisco, coming back, and he was thinking about writing a play. I was thinking about writing a play, both of which were solo projects.
Yeah.
Which, I've been working. I love collaboration, and I love my team. All the people that I've been lucky enough to work with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
With Mad World, and then obviously with Steven and Andrew
Sure.
on Bravo, and the other things that we've put together. I love being in the room with them. I think it just writing with other people. It's the best. Collaboration is the best thing in the world.
Yeah,
But writing a solo piece, or writing a piece on my own was pretty daunting at the time. And so I was talking to Andrew about it, and I had this idea about this early 20s Latino playwright actor.
How cool.
Who could that be based on? And he's writing this play in a bathtub, which is the first thing
cool.
that I thought of. And Andrew told me the idea for his play.
Yeah.
And we said, all right, well, let's work on them obviously separately, but I support you, you support me.
Yeah.
And then pretty quickly, the conversation turned into, what if we produce them together at the same time? We'll rent the same theater and just do them in rep. So that gave me...
Both of your shows?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
cool.
his play is called Loaded Questions.
Cool.
Amazing play. Really great. And then 5 O'Clock Mambo. So the 5 O'Clock Mambo, it was really interesting to work on my own without the other two.
Yeah.
Learned a ton, and then getting to be in the piece as well.
Right.
It was a piece that was really difficult to write at the time, really cathartic as well. And then getting to see it through and getting to see it staged and have people come in and see it was really special. And it's a play that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I kind of think of that play as like a sort of a time capsule of a certain point in my life, which is kind of cool because I actually read it recently. It's been a year and a half. I read it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
That's
I don't
funny.
know. It's like I almost don't recognize certain parts of it, or remembering like, oh, I was actually up there, not only seeing it as a writer, but I was doing it as an actor, and remembering, I don't know, a year and a half.
You guys are doers. That's cool because I see that just already, just starting to get to know you guys, but just with the information that you had sent me that I did a lot of research on as well, it's just cool to see that each one of you guys pushes to have your art created, but it's not, there's a good balance, I think, nowadays with in LA, the dynamic of LA being, oh, I'm gonna wait for something to happen to me versus I'm gonna go and do it.
Right.
And you just said it right there. It's like you and Andrew didn't wait to go and put that stuff on a stage and just try it out. But there's no shame in that, right? Like that's the thing. I've been trying to unearth a lot of that with this show. Is it's like, as I'm figuring it out as well, there's no shame in going and making your own film, or going and, the internet's a great place to be able to put that stuff up, or but I wonder what your perspective was on just going out and making this stuff and then putting it on stage and trying it.
Yeah. You have to be unapologetic about it, because like you said, there's nothing to apologize for at all. You band together with the people that you love to work with and that you love as people. And if you have something that you're passionate about, that's meant to be shared. Like you can write something really great, but if it just remains on the page and no one ever reads it, no one ever sees it, it's never, put up on its feet, you're not sharing your message, your gifts, whatever it may be, with other people. And I think that's, whether it's film or theater, it touches people. Like, I don't know. I thought a lot recently, what am I trying to do when I start a new project, or when we continue, like what is something that's important to me, and connecting with an audience, touching someone in the audience is something that I'm a part of, any, in any capacity. And someone in the audience sees that and it touches them. It makes them feel connected. It makes them feel heard. It makes them feel whatever. It makes them feel, if I can be a part of that, that is the coolest thing in the entire world. Nothing will beat that feeling.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No, I in a small way, I'm starting to feel that as well. Like I say this a lot, but I was so last semester I was so like all film. And I mentioned this to you before, and I just was like, I can't just do this to myself and just go one direction, because really I wasn't enjoying it because of how much I was putting into it. You know what I mean? I was learning a lot, but it was still something where and then Travis, my brother, came up with the idea of trying to do a cabaret this summer with some of his friends, and I wanted to direct it because I've been in a couple, and it was just cool to just do it. It was like, okay, we'll do it, and we planned it out over 6 months, and we're like, we're not going to make it just a cabaret, we'll make it a show. And we tried, and it worked well, and we had a great time with it. But the point being is, it's like, I don't want anybody to ever think they have to limit themselves to one thing. Obviously you do have to make money, like that's the trade-off, but there's also the pastime version of it where you work a full-time job, and I don't know if that's what you guys do. I haven't really asked that, but I'm assuming yes.
That's what and that is,
and then everything else on the side, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to support yourself, and you know, obviously you got to put a roof over your head and you have to eat. But the last year and a half for me personally has been struggling with that specifically. Like, I have been working full time, and then the time that I'm not at work, it's another tough, job, right? To, like, you know, fight for your art and to produce and to write and to act. But, you know, it's important. So that balance, maintaining that, is always something that I'll continue to learn. And, you know, I lean on other people who are doing the same thing. Right. How do you manage that? How do you manage your time? How do you manage your energy? And
yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, that's cool, because I think in a way you do have to be realistic with yourself, like we were just saying, where you do have to know, well, I need to make money, I need to actually have a career, but I still want to do all the other stuff.
Right.
And it's not one or the other. You know what I mean? It sounds like a lot of what you guys do is on the side. You know what I mean? And that's cool. And I'm sure it consumes every day of your thoughts and everything, even while you're at work. And for me, my art I'm in the same boat. Like, my art just fills me all the time, and it's not something that I can put a lid on or, you know, bottle it up. It's always there. It's just like steeping.
We, the three of us, like, when we're not literally together, in the room writing, or, you know, in rehearsal or whatever, we have our, you know, our group text, and then we have an email chain. So there was, when we were in the midst of this last version of Bravo, it was just hilarious, just because all our spare time, we were together. Like, we need to write a song, we need to revise a scene, we need to get the draft. And then when we were at work, our phones were going off constantly, and the email chain. So at one point we're like, whoa, what are we doing? Like, it was, but it was great. There's something about that. I felt like I was always connected to them. I was connected to the piece that we were writing, even when we weren't in the room writing it. So that helped balance me out, level me out when I was doing other things that are not artistic or going through the daily life. I was still constantly connected to them, talking about our show, getting excited about our show.
Awesome.
Which is great.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to hear that. But I hear this from everybody who comes on here, and really it's just encouraging to listen to. You know what I mean? That there is a community of people that are all kind of in that, you know, going at it stage where it's not 100% a full-time career yet, but, you know, you want it to be. And what is it like? What's it take to get to that point where it could be? Kind of as we wrap your segment up, future plans.
Well, you know, writing in a team. I love my team. I love the people. I love the guys that I work with, truly. So working with them, we have some stuff coming up and new ideas, and continuing to work with Bravo. We're still in the middle of it. You know, We're still developing it. We're still trying to get it to where it needs to be. So that, I'm really, really interested in, you know, I was in the last version of Bravo. I was in, you know, I've been in stuff that we've written, and I love doing, you know, writing and then getting to perform. It's just,
that's so cool.
You know, Lin-Manuel Miranda is the coolest. It's the coolest job in the world.
Yeah, that is the coolest job.
But I guess in the future, in the near future, it's been a while since I've been in class, been in acting class, been in voice lessons, been in dance class. So when I got in the show this past summer, I was like, oof, it's a bit rusty. It's been a while. So in the near future for me, I'm going to go back to training.
Awesome.
get back into that, because it's been a lot of the writing stuff for the past few years, just really honing in on writing and then producing the shows that we're writing.
Because you've been out of school 4 years?
3
years.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
3 years. Yeah.
Wow.
So in that time, it's mostly been focused on writing. Haven't done a ton of performing. And when I have, it's just been quick stuff. So getting back into that, I really want to get my instrument back to where, it used to be when I was doing it more consistently. That, and then besides writing for the musical theater with my partners, I'm really, really, really passionate and interested in writing for television.
Ooh,
something
very cool.
about writing specifically for television. The things that I love and my skills as a writer, I think really fit in that medium. So I'm working on 2 pilots right now, and then finishing up my spec scripts to hopefully open doors. Yeah, got a lot of stuff and trying to balance and juggle it all. But right now, it's all the things that I love. Every avenue, they're things I'm really passionate about. So
wonderful.
That's what's
really
coming
cool
up for me.
Well, this is part 1 of 3, 3 of the guys. But Cristian, it was really good to have you talk about everything that you're doing, your inspirations, and I'm sure it'll be very encouraging for people to watch and hear, that you just are going at it. That's the coolest thing,
Thank you, man.
to just keep going.
I appreciate that.
We'll be right back with Andrew Moorhead. Hi, welcome back. Now I'm joined by Andrew Moorhead. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yep. What's your part in this trio? This dynamic trio.
So I co-write the book with Cristian, and co-write the lyrics with Steven and Cristian.
Awesome. Yeah. So you guys all do a little bit of everything.
We do.
Which is cool. Yeah. Really cool. I wanted to kind of start with, we're going to get 3 different interpretations of Bravo, which is kind of cool. Maybe we'll get some different perspectives. But when it came about putting that project together with Cristian, what did it mean to you when it started out? What was the kind of the idea putting it together and everything?
I remember we had the idea for the initial Bravo, and I don't even think we were sure that it was a musical. We just thought, here's this idea about these kids, and a lot of what Cristian said, they're on the outside of society, and they're outcasts, and we had this idea to tell the story, and then we thought, well, I think it might be a musical. And I had never written a musical. I've grown up with musical theater, have like a really deep love and like nerddom for musical theater, but I'd never seen myself as writing one. So when Cristian said like, hey, do you want to work on this with Steven and I? And I knew Mad World at that point. I was very flattered and excited and terrified, and Bravo means a lot to me. Mainly in terms of, we've had a lot of conversations about, it was really important for us to tell a story about young people that was like for young people. Like, to me, the response, if there's ever a positive response from someone under like 25, I'm like, yes, great.
Awesome.
Like, if you connected with this story. Because we were thinking about, as Bravo developed and we started thinking about the time period, and sort of the weight of telling a story in that time about Jewish children. Obviously there's been a ton of wonderful stories and art about that time period, but we thought, well, have we seen a musical that's about the experience of young people going through war? And to me, that was something that always really connected with. Or at least thought, this is something that's worth telling. This is something that I guess you sort of look for with your show. Why does an audience need to see this? Why do they need to see it now? And that certainly informed a lot of our conversations. A call to action. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Well, and I was trying to, I think I was trying to say this during Cristian's episode, but I think I forgot it in the moment. But it's cool because the stories that you see most of the time about World War II are the Germans and what they, just everything with the concentration camps and all that stuff as far as art form. Things, and as well as the British side of things where all the kids were going on the trains, and that happened to my grandpa, so like I know that side of the story.
Really?
But it's really cool to see something from the fascist side in Italy, because that was a huge part of the war under Mussolini, but nobody really thinks about it that way.
We were certainly drawn to Italy because of its unique history. Like you said, I mean, it's sort of forgotten. It's sort of the forgotten Axis power, but Italy was the foundation of fascism. It began with Mussolini a decade before Hitler came to power. And the history of it was so complicated because their relationship, Italy's relationship to its Jewish population, was much different than Germany's was, even up to the point of the war beginning. And even when the war began, they didn't deport people to concentration camps in spite of what Mussolini was saying. Now, obviously, to be fair, they were still put in internment. There was still tons of oppression. They had their rights stripped. Absolutely. But and then our show actually deals with historically what happened when Germany invaded Italy, which happened later in the war. And that sort of takes up the back half of our show.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. It grounds, like we said before, it grounds a concept in a form of history.
Right.
Similar to maybe what Hamilton did for the world, in that it brought to life the founding fathers in a way that hadn't been seen before or even thought of. You know what I mean? It's kind of, that's kind of, I feel similarly with your guys' show, because it's like, how do you, why would you bring that to life again?
Right.
But it's neat to fictionalize an element of time that actually kind of did happen. You know what I mean? I'm sure that was a big thing, just the kids hiding out. I mean, you think about it, that has happened all over that war.
Yes, absolutely. Well, a couple thoughts about that is for one thing, when you have a historic, a really specific historic context, you can't help but build your story around the turning points in history, right? Yeah. And which is really nice because it sort of gives you a roadmap as you're developing a story.
Sure.
Where you're like, okay, these characters are going along, God, what happens? What happens to these people if they're just in hiding that would change their circumstances? You look in a history book and you say, oh my God, Mussolini was overthrown.
Yeah.
There was a time period where they thought the war might be over.
Yeah.
What they didn't know was that the worst was still to come. But just that, you're like, oh my God, there's so much story and character to be mined from that situation.
Yeah.
You would be a fool not to incorporate that stuff. And then what you're saying about making it relevant, I think that is also something that we found is that it is relevant to a contemporary audience. The idea of children being in peril, being in danger. I mean, you see it.
It's raw.
It's raw. It's raw. You only have to look at examples like school shootings, situations at the border, situation in Syria, right? Where I think I read something that a quarter of the people who had been killed were children.
Yeah.
It just brings it home that like what happened then is still happening now.
I was just gonna say, you bring that relevant thing from the past, bring it to real life again. Right. And touch people through that art form, and that's wonderful. Right. I really wish I could have seen the show. If you ever do a reading again, I'd love to see it because it's really neat. But going from there, I want to kind of go into Chapman and how I know that you are kind of more on the screenwriting side as well. And you've been writing pilots. I picked up United We Stand was something that you wrote for TV. I don't know, did it get picked up? I can't remember.
It's a great question. So that I started writing that, and I was actually a job. I was actually hired to write that by a young producer who I actually went to school with at Chapman. He was a year ahead of me.
Okay.
And he owns a production company, and we hired and we wrote this 2 years ago, and it was great. Yeah. And then it was another sort of like it was very much about what was happening now. It's a very contemporary show, kind of high concept. And then sort of reality forced us to go back and revisit it, because it was like, truth is stranger than fiction, which is obviously a cliche, but it was a little bit true.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually working on it again currently.
Awesome.
Rewriting it with him.
Cool.
And that'll be done next month.
Wonderful.
But yeah, no, when I was at Chapman, so everything Cristian said about the experience at Chapman is, I would second.
You'd echo it, yeah.
Absolutely. About
sure.
how there's all this, there's just so much stuff to do.
Yeah.
Getting to write for, Cristian and I were fortunate enough that we had really supportive professors. I mean, I remember we had the opportunity, I think the first thing we wrote together before Bravo was we wrote a play together for like a new play festival at Chapman.
Cool.
And so that was sort of where we found like, hey, this is actually kind of fun to work together. And then in the spring of that year, we got to our school was doing our acting class was doing a class project where we wanted to film a bunch of scenes, and they were going to be written for us.
Oh, that's
and Cristian and I were like, well, what would be more fun than that is if we wrote the scenes, made it into an actual movie, and like tied them all together. And we went and talked to our professor, and again, this is just the kind of place Chapman is. Our professor was like, yes, of course, you can do that. And so those kind of experiences in theater and film, just in different avenues, they really encouraged us to create our own stuff and be self-starters and be,
well,
as you said earlier,
and that's a very fortunate position to be in. Just like part of my experience, and I know a lot of other people as well, it becomes a thing where there aren't supportive professors that let you go out and try. And I've kind of had some experience with that, and it's really tough because you just want so badly to grow and grow your skill set. But sometimes they just, people are not supportive of it the same way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of, as we are kind of heading toward this place, I wanted to know kind of what your feeling was, the difference was between writing for film versus writing for theater, because it's two very different genres, even though they're kind of connected at the hip in a weird way.
Because with theater, there's a big difference between playwriting and book writing. And in a funny way, book writing reminds me more of screenwriting than it does of playwriting. For example, when you write a play, it's just your words, and you can be kind of you can be as sort of indulgent as you want to be.
Sure.
With a musical, it's you are building a story, but they're these songs, right? The songs are really what you care about in a show, right?
Sure.
You never leave a show humming the book. You leave a show humming the songs.
Yeah, the libretto's never the
Exactly.
Right,
And if you think about a movie, oftentimes, if let's say it's like you have an action movie, right? And you're writing scenes, and of course you want your script to be intelligent, and you want your characters to make sense, and you want your audience to be emotionally invested. But really what you're building towards is Tom Cruise flying a helicopter. So in a funny way, going to screenwriting classes and learning about like how to be economical in your writing, how to say like, okay, what are the essential things so we can properly build emotionally and story-wise to the number. It was like actually pretty beneficial, and the two things were I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm making all this up as I'm saying it. This is never something I've thought about. But, but now that I say it, it almost sounds kind of true. So let's just go with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like that a lot, though, actually, because it's that is true, though. I do agree with what you said, even though you came up with it on the spot.
No, it was pretty.
It's good, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
I weirdly have a little bit of experience both ways. Not really so much writing for musical theater, but I know what you mean. It's kind of like a weird. Somebody cracked their neck over there,
or a bottle.
Yeah,
Hopefully that wasn't a neck, or they need help.
No, yeah. But it is a cool duality.
Yeah.
For some reason, I feel like those two share an environment together. Theater and film. It's really interesting.
Absolutely.
Acting. I think it's acting that really is the bonding piece, because you bring a camera into the film medium and that's the focus, or in the theater medium it's really lighting and everything, and you bring that in. But long and short of it, that's excellent. Really good stuff. We kind of already covered your experience at Chapman and how cool that was. That's really neat. I kind of wanted to go into Playground because I haven't really brought that up at all. I wanted to kind of know how that started, what it is, where is it? I don't really know anything about it, but if you wanted to speak to that, go for it.
So Playground Theater, I think we after we did the very first Bravo, which was this would have been the summer right before our senior year of college.
2014, I believe.
2014, yeah, summer
okay.
2014. It was me, Cristian, Steven, and then our producing partner, Kat Chevalier. We had such a wonderful time, not only working on the show, but just working together, like making theater. We were like, we got to keep doing this. And we thought, well, if we know we're going to continue to make theater, we need to give it a structure or an umbrella that it can all sort of go under. And that's where the inspiration for Playground Theater Company came. You ask where Playground is, it's in our living rooms, it's at the theaters we rent, it's in Steven's parents' house, it's wherever we can. Like, Playground Theater is the four of us and our projects, and wherever we can make that happen, whether it's a rehearsal performance, a meeting, that's where it exists.
That's so cool. I like that.
Yeah, so we've been doing shows together since then.
Okay.
It's mostly been original stuff. Like, for example, when Cristian and I produced our plays last spring, that was a Playground Theater production.
Got it. It's like your guys' label, kind of like your distribution. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool. Very cool.
And we've also done some, I think we've done one licensed show, a cabaret.
Cool.
Yeah. And
awesome.
More to come, I'm sure.
Wow. Really cool. That's cool to take the resources that you have and the people you know and put it all together. And now suddenly you guys have something. You know what I mean? It's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I'm excited about that. And but yeah, I was going to kind of go into future plans for you. I really wanted to split all three interviews up because each one of you has something to bring to a unique thing to bring to the table. And I'm sure the collaborative effort together is really neat because you all kind of come at it from a different angle, just part of being human, right? But what are kind of your future plans or love? Like, I even say love for the arts too, because it's kind of like our getting toward the end of the talk, and just anything you would like to say would be neat.
Honestly, my future plans, like, truly is just like get to the next thing. Get the next thing done. Like, that's what one of the great things about this last year, where we've been really focused on Bravo, because we've had different things. We had all the different parts of the process with NMI, while at the same time parts of the process with Ball State. We couldn't plan ahead. We couldn't plan in November for, okay, this is what it's going to be in July when we actually do it with NMI, because we were thinking, well, no, we have to get it ready for this thing with NMI, then Ball State. And to be honest, I found that was the best way to work.
Yeah.
It's the most, it was the most fun, to be honest. And I definitely have things that I would like to do and things that I'm hoping to get. But really, it's just like, I can only think of it in terms of like, okay, these 2 months, okay, I have to finish this, or like this week it's this, and then, okay, after that, I know I'm jumping right into the next project, and then also while at the same time, the three of us, we know, okay, by this certain time we have to hit this mark, and then we're already talking about we're beginning to write a new show. We've already had conversations about okay, in a year, where is that going to be? And it's just like, you got to give if the world doesn't give you deadlines, like, you have to give yourself deadlines. Otherwise you'll just never get anything done. At least that's the way I am. So yeah, my future plan is to just keep going to the next thing. Keep getting to the next thing.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's the best though. Even if you do set those goals for yourself, I feel like that is what you have to do in general for yourself personally. Like even in a working environment where you do have deadlines, you still have the goals you want to reach. Even apart from your art. But for me, I think, and what I'm getting from you as well is that your art kind of influences your growth as a person as well. And I'm sure that motivating yourself to keep going and going and going helps you, doesn't it? I don't know if that's kind of how it goes for you, what your process is, but it sounds
encouraging myself to keep going. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have to be your own advocate because there's so, and we have to be, as a team, we have to be our own advocates for each other, for ourselves, because there is, I mean, you know, it's no surprise there's a ton of rejection and there's a ton of obstacles really pretty much at every step of the road, and you do need that, and we've been very fortunate where every time the three of us are feeling like, oh man, like, is this, particularly with Bravo, is you know, where is this going, you know, are we lost? We've been very fortunate that the work that we've put in until that point, someone has seen that and been like, no, like, keep going. Here's an opportunity.
Those are the words you need.
Here's
man.
something.
Yeah.
Right. Intrinsic motivation is so important and it's necessary, but I don't know. I think at some point, just someone saying, like, even if they're not like, yes, this is it, but just like, no, yes, I see your potential. I see your talent. I see the ability. Keep going. Keep after it.
Yeah.
That is
amazing.
Everything. That's
everything. It is everything. It is cool. That's the environment I feel comes from theater a lot. Very supportive fan base. Not I wouldn't say fan base, but just supportive people that support the arts because they do the arts. And that's something I feel is a little different than the film environment a little bit in some ways. But what I mean by that is I feel that film can oftentimes cater to being more sterile because it's not a live art form. You're not vulnerably putting yourself out there every night or putting your work out there every night. And but that's really cool to hear. You got to keep pushing at it. And I don't know if it'll be released by this point or not, but I'm gonna do a solo episode at some point where I'm talking about what defines success nowadays with this whole social age with social media, and how a follow count often depends, you know, or decides whether or not you're actually successful.
Right.
And I wanted to dissect that in today's age, and I feel that kind of through what you're talking about.
That's a huge.
It's crazy.
You're gonna have to send that to me once you're done. Maybe it'll help me define success for myself, because
none of us know yet. You know what I mean? But that's the thing, is it would be cool to kind of just chip at it. Keep that's the thing. It's weird, is you feel like you're hitting a wall at some points in time where you set, you know what I mean? Like you're setting these things without big distribution for yourself. And what keeps you going? You know what I mean? It's such a weird thing that I wanted to chat about. I don't know.
When we talked about the show, we would look at it with Bravo. At some point, you know, our conversation shifted to like, what do we want the show to be? To like, okay, what is it going to be? How do we find the best version of that? Right? How do we keep chipping away? Because chipping away, I mean, does that metaphor literally come from like marble? Like when people would chip away at marble?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Michelangelo.
Right. That's the perfect metaphor, right?
Yeah,
because it's like, what are you chipping away? You're chipping away to get to the beautiful sculpture. Right. Yeah. Whether that's a piece of art or I guess your self-actualization or something. Yeah. I don't know. But dude, that sounds great.
But it's cool. I think it's cool. Everybody that comes on here is in the same position. It's like they're doing their art and they're not going to stop. You know what I'm saying? But there is still that monotony that sometimes I think every artist kind of feels, that it's like, am I just going to make that, you know, when am I going to stop working my 40-hour a week and make this my 40-hour a week, right? Right. I feel like in hindsight, I don't know if you feel this, but that's kind of what we reach for. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and it's not for legitimacy, but that would be the dream, to be able to work doing what I love, depending on whatever it is.
Absolutely, and for me, it's not hindsight. I mean, I'm in that place too. I mean, I think I think it's so cool that you're doing this because, I listen to a ton of podcasts with like
Yeah.
really successful people,
Yeah.
and it's always when they're already successful, right? So it's like they're looking back on like, well, my struggle, and it always feels like we talk about this where it's
Yeah.
like someone gets up there and says, "Oh, my 20s," and you're like, but actually though, it's romantic and it's all like, but now I have these awards, right? And
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
always a
Leaves a weird taste in your mouth.
a distance. Yeah, there's a distance between
Yeah.
there. So I think it's so cool that you're talking to people literally as they're in the place of trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's really
Thanks.
cool.
I guess it's more for me. It's more I don't have a platform to give. Obviously, this is all up and coming. I'm up and coming. That's the whole point of doing this thing, is because I think there's unrecognized talent that now, thanks to the internet, can be showcased. Do you know what I mean? Especially in kind of this valley, the LA area. So anyway, it was great to have you on.
Dude, great talking to you.
You're the
man.
second of 3, and we'll be right back with Steven. Hi, welcome back. I'm now joined by Steven Schmidt. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. We'll kind of start out the way the other two started out in that what is your role kind of in your guys' partnership that you have together?
Yeah, so I compose the music and then I co-write the lyrics with Cristian and Andrew as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I wanted to kind of lead into this whole thing. We were just talking about it. You performed at Carnegie Hall, St. Peter's Basilica. You've performed in Austria, other parts of Europe. What does music as a whole kind of mean to you?
That's a great question. I think I kind of have to separate it in two different answers. The first is like what does music mean to you?
Yeah.
And that's like, I heard somebody say the other day actually that music is what language words wish it could be.
Yeah. Like a love language.
Yeah. And so I think that music has this incredible ability by itself, but I think when paired with words to express the intangible, and that's like an amazing thing to be able to try and be a part of and to create. So I love that. And then also personally, music has taken me, like you said, like all around the world, in lots of different ways. And those are all opportunities that sort of I stumbled into.
Yeah.
And I'm so fortunate to have had those opportunities. Mm-hmm. And so, music has also been a place where all my dearest friends I've pretty much met exclusively through the arts and creating things together.
Yeah.
So when I think about like what does the arts mean to me, what does creativity, what does story mean to me, it's kind of tough to disembody it from all of my relationships and all of the most challenging and beautiful moments of my life as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. It's really well put together. So you and Cristian met a long time ago.
I went in junior high.
Yeah, junior
Yeah.
high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to kind of ask you in regards to kind of music and how that became a love for musicals, because you guys both shared that at a really young age, it sounds like. How did that kind of all come about? Is it similar to the story with like Mad World where you guys were both kind of going at it at Valencia and stuff?
Yeah. So for me, music has always been a part of my life. My dad's a composer for film and television. So when you talk about like Santa Clarita, kids who grow up with their parents in the industry that commute into LA, so you're kind of in this weird world where you're a part of that, but you're also not.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I grew up with that, and I grew up doing lots of theater. So for me, I started to write more when I was entering into junior high, and I started reteaching myself piano. And I would just go into my dad's office and play the piano like late at night for hours on end and just make stuff up.
Yeah.
And I did that for years and nobody knew that I did that. And then I also like got GarageBand when I was the same age. So then I started to like record and like mess around with loops and all this stuff. So I tell people that the beginnings of like creating musically was me making beats in my room for 2 years and never showing anybody anything, which is great because I'm not an amazing beat maker. But it was really fun, and it was a really great learning experience. And then basically just through meeting all of those friends and meeting Cristian in junior high, we just started creating things together. But it wasn't until as Cristian said, it wasn't until the moment we decided to write our first project together. That was when I finally took all of that creativity, which was very private, and started to make it a little more public in a way.
Wonderful. Somehow I feel the arts in general, theater maybe more specifically, draws that out of you. You know, for me, it was I'd never been anything close to being on stage until sophomore year of high school, and I hated being in front of people. And all of a sudden, it's snapped me right into it, and I was like, wow, I love this. Why didn't, you know what I mean? There's some kind of an escape with that feeling where you can just go out there and do what you got to do. And that kind of goes along with kind of maybe making your first project. Like you said, it's like, wow, it's suddenly like, I'm doing this thing. You know, what was that kind of like when you started to write and compose for Mad World and all that stuff?
Well, it's like, it's equally exciting and terrifying, right? Because it's a vulnerable experience, especially vulnerable if you don't know what you're doing and you're just throwing stuff at the wall, and like, it can be very, very scary. But I think it was also, we were in an incredibly supportive environment with both our family and our friends and our teachers. And so when it comes to having like a safe place to be able to start to create, I think we were so fortunate to have that space, and I think that's something that not many people get. So I look back on that time as just so with such thanks. And honestly, as I go forward, like I teach now a lot, so part of what I love about teaching is like now I get the opportunity to try and create a space for people to do the same thing, and I think that will always be a part of my work as a human being. Is trying to give that back to people in the way that I was given that. Yeah.
You know, what's interesting is I had a conversation with Matt San Jose, who was on last episode. I was chatting with him about, and he mentioned this to me because he was teaching over in the Philippines because his family's over there, and he was teaching dance and acting and singing. And he said that experience teaching was humbling in the fact that it brought out so many things in him that he didn't know that he did, or more, he really said he learned from it, which is the coolest thing. And I'm sure that you guys have a lot of that when you guys put together a show and you're directing people. And, you know, I wonder from the music side if now teaching and all that stuff plays a part in your growth in the future and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I've never believed in like that old adage where it's like those who can't do teach. I think that's not right. That's not true at all. I think that there's the people that are best at actually doing things that impact humanity are teaching in some way. So even if that's the artist that like, if it's a Ralph Waldo Emerson that goes off into solitude, and he's not teaching anybody, but his writing has been teaching people for years what it means to be human and what it means to find so much. I mean, I could go on a long time about that, but if we've ended up creating good art or doing something of value, it ends up teaching somebody something. So to me, it's like, as I get more experience as a teacher and more experience as a writer, the more that the worlds start to blend and they start to inform each other.
Right. Which makes your creative pursuits, I'm sure, stronger for all of you guys. It's cool you guys all have a unique difference that I keep noticing. You know, Cristian and Andrew are kind of in the same boat with some film stuff, but they don't really all have the same like music background, and you guys all have different backgrounds. But that is cool to me. I mean, Cristian said that he loved like collaboration to death, and I feel that. Because it's cool. I mean, I get excited just about the three of you working together, because that to me is cool, because you acknowledge each other's strengths and weaknesses, and then you put them all together. What's it like kind of collaborating with Andrew and Cristian?
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I think the thing, what I love is that all of our different sort of backgrounds, or the things that the skills that we bring to the table, the experiences that we've had, it sort of helps us to find a common language when we write. And I think that we experience that every time we collaborate, or even just have our like relationships with friends and family. It's most of the time we get into conflict is like when we just don't understand what the person's actually saying, right? And we rarely take the time to dive into that. So it's nice. They have a film background. That was what my family did. I've seen like so many movies, and that's all we did. I don't really remember doing anything else as a kid in terms of family time.
Yeah, likewise.
So it's like there is such a mine for us in terms of like finding a language. So like even when we write Bravo, most of the time when we talk about scenes and things, we're using cinematic language, and we talk about transitions from certain sequences and scenes in Bravo. And when we've been writing, we've realized, oh, we need to treat this as like as a jump cut, or we need to treat this as like a crossfade. There's these language that we can use that really help us find clarity in the process.
Yeah. There's a little bit of duality there, Andrew, that we could have chatted about that. But yeah, it is interesting. I felt like I approached theater similarly too, because I know directing for film a little better than I know directing for theater. But it's cool to treat it like that, because then you kind of have some sort of a crossover, and things kind of make more sense as, you know, a director and everything. But I want to ask you kind of about some of your takeaways from Azuza, because I know that you didn't go to school at Chapman. What are the things that you felt like you grew there musically, and how many instruments do you play? Instruments? A lot?
Voice is my primary instrument, and then I would say piano, and then guitar.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So piggybacking off that, how did you feel your time at Azusa grew you? And then we'll get into kind of some more music stuff for Bravo, because I want to make sure I touch on that. But
yeah, I had an amazing experience there, and it was very similar to Cristian and Andrew's in the sense that, like, I mean, I went there expecting, I was like, oh, I've had the opportunity so far as like a young person to like discover so many different ways of creating, and to be a part of so many different things and different mediums. And like, I had this naive belief that I was going to college to try and find like my niche and try and find the one thing that I did. And instead, I was lucky enough that in the first conversation I had with a professor, they like basically told me that narrative was wrong, and that no, this is a space where you just do as much as you can and you experience as much as you can, and all of those things will inform whatever you end up doing. And really, like, you're in the process of trying to become a jack of all trades, like, and
definitely.
And so the fact that Cristian and Andrew had an experience where it's like they got to do writing and the gritty engineering aspect of filmmaking, and as well as like acting and performing and all these different disciplines. I had a very similar experience musically in the program that I was in, since it was it's technically a BM in commercial music, which basically just means contemporary music and the music industry. So I was taking like lessons in audio classes in audio production and like all of like the technological things like audio engineering, as well as like notation and music theory and 20th century compositional techniques and songwriting and all these different things that like all in their own way, along with my experiences in different ensembles and singing in choirs and stuff, they all inform
producing, as well as being able to kind of use your voice as an instrument throughout that time as well, right? Training kind of both.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. I know Peter kind of does some of that now. He's an audio engineer. That's what he's going to school for, and I feel like it's really valid to have all that theory. You know, I always think about that. It's weird because you want hands-on when you go to school, but you also want theory. And it's like, how do you balance the two? And I think it is cool when schools are like, hey, here's a class on, like you said, 20th century composing and all that stuff. You have that, as well as hands-on and all the projects that I'm sure you got to do there and everything. That's really neat.
I feel like if you don't have both, then you're missing out on just a huge aspect of education.
Exactly.
And furthering yourself. So I'm just thankful that Azusa was an amazing place for me to experience that. And I also like got to do it with people that I loved and I came to be incredibly close friends with. So it's kind of like what you said, like when you have talented friends and talented people around you who you also like draw close to, then there's just like, I think that if you do your job well and you listen well enough to yourself and to the people around you, you'll end up creating something good. I think
that's key. I think that's really key. Listening. That's what I've been learning in a lot of hard ways, that I need to listen more. Do you know what I mean? I think it's so easy for any one of us to just be more worried about yourself in every moment of time. You know what I mean? In a way, like it's hard to open an ear and listen, even though that's why you're in school, that's why you go to school, and why you open collaboration and all that stuff. Transferring now over from there kind of into Bravo, I wanted to hear your perspective on writing the music, because that's so key to a musical as much as the story is. But this is probably the biggest element. What was it like kind of writing the music that played off of the themes from the show?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think to answer it honestly, I have to like approach it in two ways. The first is that like I love writing for theater, and it's kind of like opened up a lot of things for me, because I was never like the kid that would go and write a song to like as a catharsis to express my feelings, or
Sure.
to name them. So for me, theater is like what unlocks my creativity, because I get to empathize with a character, and
Boom.
I get...
How many times have we heard that word?
Oh,
Everybody says it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because it's true. That's like, boom, that's the whole thing. That's,
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I get
empathy
fired
is
up
the
about it, but I
cornerstone
love it.
of the arts, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and so for me, as like this particular story though, was writing the music. I think I don't know. It's I could talk about like individual passages or single notes, but really, it's been a lesson in not judging what I'm creating. And I can be critical, but I don't want to judge it. So like I've had moments where like I'm off working on music by myself, and the best moments of the show, and the music that I love most dearly from the show are the things that like they happened organically, or I fought for them, but during the process I wasn't judging it. I think we all as creators know what it's like to be in that space where something is happening, or where something is coming out of us, we're making something up, or we're doing a scene, doing a monologue, and we're constantly judging ourselves. There's like this inner monologue that's completely separate from what's actually going on. And there were a few moments where when writing, it's like that stopped, and I was able to have a healthy critique of myself, a healthy critique of what I was doing, and it was almost like putting a puzzle together. So when it came to writing the music for the show, there have been certain musical pieces and songs that have always been in it because they just felt right.
Themes.
Yeah, themes, and those themes. I mean, it's a very thematic, motivic show, so we just come back to them all the time.
Right.
So those things have always just sort of felt congruent with the story we were trying to tell, and
Wonderful.
then everything else is just trying to what feels right.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Love that. That was a perfect. I feel like that was like a perfect description of, like writing for a show, because there's so much that you want to bring forward, but can you say it all at once? And you know what I mean? That seems crazy. For people who don't know the music at all, what style is it? Is it contemporary?
Yeah, it's contemporary.
Okay.
The music that I like to write for theater is less like, the way that I try and describe it to people is like, it's not Broadway. It's not really that as much. And it's more in the vein of like a Next to Normal or a Spring Awakening or a Hamilton, in the sense of trying to take like contemporary music and portray it in an authentic theatrical way. So,
Cool.
yeah, so it has contemporary instruments, and I always like to throw other colors in there, instrumental colors in there as well.
Yeah.
But,
It's definitely very, because I got to listen to a couple tracks. Camden showed me a couple tracks, and I was like, oh wow, it's got a very cool and unique sound, which I thought was awesome. Like it does have the not traditional, it does have contemporary aspects to it, but I wanted to like compliment you guys because it is so unique at the same time. I think you got a really neat piece overall when you think about picking something grounded in history, bringing that back to now, which seems to be a big theme with Hamilton and all these shows that are doing that, but at the same time, like, it's cool that you can make music that you think dictates that mood. You know what I mean? It's kind of a cool,
it's a challenge
feeling.
for sure. And there's been songs that we've written that are have not worked because they were like in styles, or they were like portraying like even they were in a harmonic world that like sounded more like the 40s, that like, And
Yeah.
sometimes that's worked. Like there's one song
Yeah.
on the show that stayed in the show through every iteration. That's the harmony is very 40s, 50s. It's swing. And for some reason, with the emotion that we're trying to convey with that particular place in the show, that style just happens to work. And then for everything else, it's very contemporary. So it's like, I don't know, the show, it sort of ends up becoming what it needs to be, I guess, in terms of style.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's very neat. How it's kind of, I don't know. It to me, I think of it. It sounds like bright. Do you know what I mean? Like it has like kind of a life to it, where it's very I don't know. It's pretty upbeat, isn't it? The music I heard is kind of upbeat in a sense. I don't know how. I guess it just changes throughout the entire piece, but I haven't heard all the music. So
The context isn't bright.
Yeah.
But
Right.
music, yeah, I think that's a good word. I think that's a good word.
it kind of has some energy,
Sure.
maybe some life to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really well written and sounds awesome.
you.
And well, I kind of asked both Cristian and Andrew about future. I wondered kind of what your personal pursuits are leading you toward.
Yeah.
What you guys have mentioned that you're still writing stuff, which is great. I know that probably never stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, so we're going to continue to work on Bravo, but then we also we want to start working on our next idea as well. And then for me personally, I think I'm also entering into a space as a creative person where you guys use the word unapologetic as a creator, with Cristian.
Yeah.
And you guys were talking about how or you said, why do we be ashamed that we're going to create something?
Yeah.
And I realized that for me, collaboration was a way for me to validate not feeling ashamed. So for me, I'm going to challenge myself in this next season, to create things that are just me and send them out into the world. So I'm going to hopefully in the next couple months, well, in a month, I'm self-publishing a book of poetry with my wife.
Awesome.
And then
really neat.
And
What's
then
the title of that?
It's called Tiam and Songs
Tiam.
of Becoming.
That's cool.
Tiam is a Norwegian word that means the twinkle in your eye when you first meet somebody.
Oh, that's so neat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
cool.
so
That's cool.
I love poetry and I want to continue to do that. And I have other things in the pipeline for that. And then I also want to start just producing my own music and sending it out into the world almost more as a laboratory to continue to learn things that I can apply to my other projects.
How
and
cool.
whatnot.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's cool because it's funny because I feel the the internet and everything, just being able to put yourself out there. But at the same time, it's the dynamic where will it ever be really seen? And that's kind of what I was talking about with Andrew, is it's it bugs me so much that you're seen as not successful in some fields, if you know what I mean, in the sense that just because it doesn't have a view count that matches what the actual feeling is conveying. I don't know. I'm a big advocate for the fact that doesn't, it doesn't matter. Think about how many teen stars and stuff are 1 million followers on Instagram or something. And what do? They do ASMR and all this weird crap. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. Do you know what I mean? It's not the same art, but does that define success? I don't think so. Do you know what I mean? Our community
Well, we all know
is
intuitively
cool.
it shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't.
So I think
Right.
we need to have conversations about what is we can look into the past. We so easily throw away the past in so many ways, particularly when it comes to technology.
Yes.
And instead how did this has always been a conversation we've had. How do we put great art and how do we put good things on a platform?
Right.
And economics doesn't usually lend itself to that kind of thing. So and even the definition of success, that's something that Americans are really obsessed about. And it's hard to not I think it's all our personal work, really. For me as an artist, I've had to come to a place where it's even if this book of poetry, I'm not putting it out. I'm putting it out there because I realize I need to put myself out there. And if I was going what is the objective at the end of the day? And if our whole point is trying to make we've had used the word monetizing and and I think it's better to say the phrase I want to make a living doing this. And sometimes making a living doesn't really mean money. Sometimes it's more than that. So
Wow, that's really well put. Yeah, it's it's a very ironic thing that people think that you should be subjected to the system. I talk about that a lot because it drives me nuts. You know what I mean? I feel a lot of the topics on the show that I bring out is because I know that the people I'm chatting with feel the same way or are annoyed by the same things.
Sure.
Because to me, it literally drives me up a wall that people can't be proud of the things that they're putting out, whether or not they had thousands of people see it.
Yeah.
You know, like Broadway. I'm thinking like live entertainment, but there's so many good things out there that people really work really hard on. And I wish there's no way for everybody to be able to see everything. You know what I mean? Just nowadays, there's so much uploading and sharing and posting.
Yeah.
It's like there's no way everybody's going to see everything. But that's what's cool about this show is I love this small community of people out here. It's really kind of large. There's like 200,000 people in Santa Clarita now, which is nuts. LA area is even bigger.
It's a huge city.
It is big.
People don't think of it as a big city.
But I mean, even uniting a group together of artists and people who feel that, and showing people that it ultimately doesn't matter.
Well, I think it's easy to criticize the macro, right? It's easy to criticize social media and the systems and all this stuff, but like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether we criticize it or whether we love it. What matters is like who's in front of you and what is our community. And so the fact that you're saying, okay, like I'm gonna approach the micro, and my micro is the 200,000 people and all the kids that want to create in the Santa Clarita Valley, and you start there, and that's what's actually important, because that's what's tangible and that's what's flesh and blood. So yeah, I think that's the approach that we should all have. Like that's like our work to do.
Yeah. Wow. Well, really good stuff from all three of you guys, and I think I appreciate it more on a deep level, because that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the show. Is I feel there's so many interviews that just chat about, like I had Carly Webster, my friend, on, and she was on The Voice, and it's like every interview she's ever been on or for has been, oh, what was that? You know, what was that like? And I mean, I'm guilty of talking about that probably for 30 minutes with her, but at the same time, it prefaced what I was going to actually talk about, which was her and her music and her feelings about the arts and everything. And I think, I don't know if it was you or Andrew or Chris, I don't remember who said it, but oftentimes I feel there are it was Andrew, there are podcasts where people go on because they're known, and then they talk about anything. They just talk about, I think you said it during the episode. Oh yeah, well back in my 20s, or and talking about like they don't really share any tangible things of how to kind of make your way up. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'm excited to have you guys be on this episode as guys who share that kind of same feeling.
We're in.
It's cool.
Like we talked about, we're in the middle of that. Like I teach and I work at a church in order to pay my bills, and then I do all this other stuff. And luckily, it's all music, and it's all things, like I said, that inform each other and they help me to grow. But we're all just figuring it out and trying to do our best. And I'm really thankful that you're here to like have those conversations, because like you said, there's not many people out there willing to have them. Yeah, and they're important.
Well, and I'm not afraid to put them out there. That's the thing. That's the cool thing about the internet and about the show and everything. But thank you for being on.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back, and you'll see all three of the guys on the couch together talking about a little bit about the show and the song that Steven's going to be performing from Bravo. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. Now we have all three of the guys on the couch over there utilizing the space. Just kind of give us an overview of Bravo, the song that Steven's going to be performing, what part of the show this is in, just however you want to go at it.
So this is a song called Our Stars. It happens early in the show, sung by a character named Bianca. And what's happened leading up to this is Renzo, who is the black shirt that the show is primarily about, has just discovered Bianca along with the other children. And they have this sort of long confrontation. And at the end of it, Bianca sort of sings this song. And Cristian, you want to talk about sort of that moment?
Yeah, so she sings this song, and this is probably my favorite song in the show, and probably my favorite song that we wrote together for the show. Because as Andrew said, she has this confrontation with him, and they have this interaction, and it's
where she's trying to tell him not to turn them in. Right. That's the point of the song. Is don't. He feels like he has to denounce them. She's like, don't. They have known each other for years. They're friends.
Yeah.
And in the song, which you'll hear, she says that he's good. And I don't know, for us, that theme of the show, it's he is in the time that they're living in, and for her to turn around to this black shirt, this fascist who is discriminatory towards her, and she says he's good. Yeah, that was just fascinating to us. And when we were writing it together, I remember the three of us landed on this moment, and the lyrics flew pretty quickly. It was one of those things where we were in the same room. Steven was at the piano. We all had our notepads out, and it was like, and then she says this, and then she says this, and then she says this, and it flew probably in like 20 minutes. It was just the three of us really were on the same wavelength. Awesome. So it's a really important song for us as far as what she's saying, what we're trying to say throughout the whole piece, and then also for us, it was a good memory for us as a team in the process of writing Bravo. The song means a lot to us.
Excellent. Well, wonderful. We're going to go and transition into that right now, and Steven will be set up to play. Thanks for being on, guys.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Hi, welcome back. I'm going to be playing Our Stars from Bravo New Musical.
Should I see through your eyes? Should I trust your regret? Would it really be wise to forgive and forget? Do we breathe the same air? Do we see the same sky? Is our blood the same shade? Do you ever ask why? Renzo, we're the same. No matter what you think, no matter what you've done, no matter what you said, I believe you're good. I believe you're good. We've known each other forever. I know the path that you've tread. All our stars are connected, cross and twined like a thread. And so we're the same. No matter what you think, no matter what you've done, no matter what you said, I believe you're good.
Now we're going to crowd the couch.
Awesome.
You good? Thank you for watching, everybody. Follow us at 1 in 20 Show on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And then you guys want to throw out your tags?
Yeah,
your social
absolutely.
tags?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Mr. Cristian G.
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Andrew Moorhead. I don't remember what my handles are.
And you can look up Steven James Schmidt on the internet, and you'll find me at all of those places.
Awesome. Thank you guys
All
for
the places
watching.
of the internet.
Support the arts. Thank you for watching.